Hi, everyone. This is class number 5 of Constellations for Individuals on August 7th, 2018. We have a pretty full class. Kristen did email and offer her apology. She won't be here this evening. Let's see, we got Amy, Hillary, Nancy, Farid, Yael, Guy, Catherine, Jessica, Jean V, and Ingrid not here, and Kate here? Kate's here. Kate is here. So we're just missing Ingrid. Okay. So, and Kristen, who said she would not be here this evening. So, tonight is doing constellations with online apps. This is kind of cutting edge for me. I've done a lot of research in the last couple of weeks, and a lot of troubleshooting, and hopefully it's all ready. But I'm going to invite you ahead of time to be very patient if we end up with technological difficulties. Just like you would ask for patience with your own clients if you had technological difficulties, yeah? But for a moment, ignore all that. Any shares about doing constellations in the last week, particularly constellations in the mind? Anyone have a chance to practice miracle cures, train wrecks, questions? Any shares? Yes, Farid, briefly.
I've been incorporating it big time into my work, into the QHHT. So, you know, the first 1.5 hours is therapy. So it's incredible. So yesterday I was able to sort out a person's stuff using stuff that I had in the clinic, crystals, some figurines, a mixture of stuff. And we could see the scenario. Then we did the deep hypnosis. And then at the end of the session, we did another constellation and everything was different.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
With the figurine. So it was absolutely mind blowing. And I got the client to actually take a photo of the last constellation. So he took a photo of the first one. And then after, you know, like something like 100 minutes of hypnosis where we were dealing with everything, we did another constellation. It took 10 minutes. So I'm finding it a really kind of quick and fabulous way to reveal and then also to sort of sit.
Yeah.
They're great.
Thank you for the reminder around taking pictures. This is something that a lot of people who do tabletop stuff will do. They will take pictures. I offer a caveat about that. More along the lines of the final picture. One of the things is, as you know, I do Zoom sessions and I'm often recording coaching sessions. Some of you have heard me talk about this. If you've worked with me one-on-one, that when I do change work sessions and I record and I send the recording, I generally advise the client not to watch it. The reason being that if they watch the recording of their own change work session, they have to make sense of where it starts, which is with the problem. And they have to make a picture and almost kind of reinstall it. And often what change work does is it makes us a little amnesiac about how things once were, which is a good thing. It's hard to sort of like how I can't quite remember how anxious I was. So I always share recordings with a little bit of a caveat with people. And if at the very least wait a month or so until after the change work to watch it. And that if they're thinking, oh, I want to remember the insights, or want to remember what happened during it, I say, you know what? If you forget that stuff and you still have the good outcome, that's okay. And then your left brain's not getting in the way of the integration process. So I do often recommend taking pictures of tabletop stuff, mostly at the end when you have the resolution all set up. And then think through what you want to share around the beginning, so that clients aren't reinstalling where they were at the beginning of the work. But thank you for reminding us about that, Farid. It's a really common thing, taking pictures of tabletop work. Yeah, other shares, other questions, other train wrecks or miracle cures. I love hearing all the stories about how intensely confident this work is making you all and giving you the chances for a lot of success. But I'm also happy to hear about the messy stuff, because we all got messy stuff along the way as well. I sure do. Any shares or questions?
So this is a little bit of both, the messy stuff and the confident stuff. I did, because Hillary was unable to attend the last part of last week's class, I responded to her offer and did a constellation in the mind with her. And what I found fascinating is that there were times when I was just letting her process what she was seeing, and my active left brain kept going, you should be doing something, you should be putting something in. And it just didn't feel right. And I just let that go until it felt like the right time to say something or add something. And it really felt very deep and wonderfully profound. And at the end, she said, that was so amazing. So much happened in the silence. Thank you for allowing the silence. It was like, here I was, criticizing myself for I should be doing something, and I was already doing by not doing.
Yeah. Thank you for that reminder. I don't let silence be enough either. And that's a really good reminder. Yeah. The other thing that I like in there, whatever we think in our heads when we're facilitating, that's something that's going to happen. And we're not necessarily going to act on all the stuff that's going on in your head. So who here has some version of muscle testing in your toolkit? There are lots of different versions of it. There's pendulum stuff. There's, little finger things. Yeah. There's all, there's the arm thing, different versions of it. But it all comes down to running into what you just noticed, Amy, which was you thought about doing something and something said, nope. Yeah. And you listen to it. Right? And I think about that as kind of down and dirty muscle testing.
Yeah.
It really is just hearing the voice of, from a systemics point of view, a teacher, the language of it, is it in order for me to fill in the blank? Is it in order for me to say something now? Is it in order for me to add in the father? Is it in order for me to, whatever? And the people who do muscle testing tend to have a good feel for this. So if you don't know what I'm talking about on muscle testing, go on YouTube, find a version of it. There's stuff out there. There's just this one. Should I go to the party tomorrow with my best friend? And if they stay locked, then that's a yes. If they let go, it's a no. And then there's the pendulum one as well, and there are others. But it really is just checking the system. Is it in order for me? And that's a really useful tool to have as a practitioner, generally speaking, and as a facilitator. Especially when you're starting to go for a resolution that feels like a logical thing to do next. And then something says, you know what, it doesn't feel right yet. Yeah. So thanks for that, Amy. Any other questions or shares about the work of last week? Yeah, Jean-V.
Yeah. The person I did it with has done quite a bit of guided visualization, sort of fantasy-based stuff. And I was trying to make sure that this was distinct for her from that. And saying, okay, well, I want you to notice that I'm not providing the path. I'm not telling you where the path goes, and I'm certainly not telling you exactly who you're going to meet, and that there will be a message, and letting her fill in and take responsibility. And the thought I had afterwards was, well, if I'm leaving it up to her to fill it in like that, perhaps it'll last for her longer.
It might.
I was hoping that would be the case. I've known her a long time, and I've seen her approach and kind of surf over the top of a lot of different modalities. And then this time I was like, well, I'm not expecting to make a huge difference, but if I can avoid, making this too easy for her, making sure her brain's doing the work. And, so that was the goal I felt. But there was also this thing of like, okay, so she went somewhere, she met someone that she found herself, named and visualized, and then I thought, well, this is pretty short. I guess I can't really get to any kind of attempted resolution in a 20-minute exercise. And so I just kind of turned around and said, okay, I think you're done, and you can go back to where you were in your mind. And it just didn't feel very satisfying in that way. Like, okay, you can't neatly tie it all up every time. I know that. So,
Yes.
But I was just kind of like a little bit uneasy about ending without, I don't know. I didn't want to be the big, here's what you did. I wasn't going to explain it for her.
Mm-hmm.
I just said, and I'm not solving this for you. I'm not telling you where it's going. I had her do a healing sentence at the end to thank the person who showed up and say thank you, and I will ask for your help, just like that. That's all I thought was right to do.
Yeah.
And yeah. I don't know why I think, but it's had some more degree of feeling therapeutic than a fantasy game. That's about as far as I was sure of.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, and there's just a few things here I want to raise up. First off, there's not a fundamental difference between guided imagery
Visuals.
and constellations in the mind.
Yeah.
It's the unconscious taking the lead. However,
Right.
it is in the framework of family constellations.
Right.
And so it's in kind of in that subset of the larger subset of guided visualizations.
Yeah.
So I don't worry about it becoming just fantasy, as long as we're actually being honest to the unconscious flow.
Mm-hmm.
But you raise a couple of other really important sort of family constellations principles that I just want to raise up for a second. One is tidy resolutions versus not so
Right.
tidy resolutions.
Right. Yeah.
And they both exist. They're both real. And it's really nice when they're tidy and or tidy-ish. And they're the ones that feel incomplete. You've hit for whatever reason, you've hit the limits of what the group or you or the client or the system can do for whatever reason. And it can be our limitation as a facilitator, it can be where they are as the client, it can be all the group can hold up to that point. It can be a time limitation sometimes, like you're implying.
Yeah.
Having a tolerance for that is really, really important, because the danger of trying to eliminate non-resolutions is that we try and force something.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
The only thing worse than lack of a resolution is a forced resolution, right?
Yeah.
So I just want to name that
Right.
for the group, and then it's not easy as the facilitator to let things be sometimes. I just sort of honor that. The other thing I just want to name that I think is really helpful in here is the spectrum between client authority and independence.
Yeah.
And the client leaning on us for some help. And that's a slide that we move on as a facilitator. And there are times when we never want to completely take away the authority and independence of the client, ever. But there are times when they really kind of need to lean on us a bit. They need to feel that like there's someone kind of in charge and helping them along and making suggestions and being a bit directive. And there are times when you're like, you're leaning too much. We need to leave this with you a bit more. And this is part of the art of the work. It's a determined thing. And so I just wanted to lift up that bit of what you were discerning about this client for all of us. Again, the challenges of being this kind of a practitioner
Yeah.
When it's time to sort of move back, and when it's time to kind of be there strongly for them so they can lean on you. So thanks for kind of naming that, Jean-V. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you suggesting we use muscle testing during a constellation? You could. There's no reason why you couldn't. Having said that, what I'm really suggesting is, to the degree that anyone on this call knows what muscle testing is, there is kind of a, like, if you know what this feels like, yeah, you can just feel it in your body without the fingers. It's what in NLP is called it's a reference K. It's a felt sense that your body picks up on before your head does. And Amy was describing that very well when she was reporting. There were things I thought I should be doing, but it didn't seem quite right. She's describing that body feeling. For me, it's the reference, the somatic reference feeling for, is it in order for me to do this thing that I'm contemplating? Yeah. Wish more of us thought of this before we started giving unsolicited advice to a friend. I mean, this kind of thing, right? They're spilling their heart to us, and we'd start advising them. And instead of, checking in, and slowing down with it, that's what they really want, right? I'm just talking about that. And it can be very helpful when you're in the thick of a constellation to know that thing in your body that's telling you, nope, not in order. And if you have a quick muscle test in the middle of a constellation that you don't feel weird about doing, go for it. I don't see anything wrong with that. Why not? Particularly if you're doing a one-on-one, right? Okay. So let's dive into the material for tonight. Let me plug in before so I want to do a quick lecture before we dive into the online apps. On thinking systemically. So this is the last of the kind of review topics that probably most of you have some aspect of from your prior training or other contexts. But this seems really important to raise up before we finish this course. In parlance these days, there's different kind of intelligences, right? So there's emotional intelligence now, right? And kinesthetic intelligence and different kinds of intelligences that are out there. And I tend to think that systemic intelligence is another kind of way of thinking about the world. And there are a subset of people who kind of take to it. They just do it automatically. And the rest of us kind of got to relearn it a little bit. Particularly since most of Western culture does not think systemically. Having said that, in the organizational world, this is more and more the way consultants think. Yeah. So you'll see that as the default, if you get out organizational development books, leadership books, then they're all talking and thinking systemically. Books on environment and ecology are thinking systemically, right? And so the problem when it comes to psychological issues, and this is sort of the bucket we tend to put all this stuff into, we are all trained to think very individualistically. So it takes a little bit of work to retrain ourselves. So thinking systemically, here's a few principles. If you Googled systemic thinking, this is the kind of stuff you would find. It includes the perception of systems as wholes, as entities in and of themselves, with purpose, history, and logic that is not limited to the sum of their parts. Yeah. So the family, the nation, the planet, right? The tendency to presuppose and be curious about systemic influences on the parts. So how is the whole affecting the individuals? Yeah. So it's not just an individual feel depressed, what's going on with that person that she's depressed? How is her environment influencing her experience of being depressed? Okay. The ability to notice and sense invisible, unconscious aspects of a system. Yeah? So the one I often offer up is, why the heck is this organization the third time in a row hiring an alcoholic CEO despite all of their best efforts to not do that? Well, there's something going on in the unconscious of that system that's got that pattern stuck. Yeah? The tendency to include and honor all aspects of the system. Yeah? A mindset of curiosity about the internal logic, and when we are in families, we might say love, that the system is expressing in any given symptom or problem. I mean, this is the kind of thing when, you know, the parents bring the teenage son to the therapist and says, our 14-year-old has started smoking dope and being bad in school and really, you know, getting in trouble. Can you please help him? And the therapist says, what's going on in your marriage? That this child is now the symptom holder of. Yeah. And understanding of the rules and patterns that govern systems. In family, it'd be the orders of love. Organizational systems have slightly different rules. Ecological and natural systems have different rules. A chakra system has chakra rules. Yeah. Understanding the rules and patterns that govern systems. The ability to notice the role you may be playing in a system and how you are being influenced by your belonging to the system. Yeah. So, you know, if you're going to a workplace and you're not feeling very motivated to do what you do, it could just be you and your lack of motivation in the job, or there could be something in the system that is making it really hard for you to care. Yeah. There's some practical implications in our common lives that's very, very useful, and then, of course, in constellations. Instead of assuming it's about me or it's about him or her, we ask what's going on in the system. So everyone, just right now, bring up a relationship you're having a problem with. Just think of one, you know, a cousin, a coworker, a boss, you know, a boyfriend, whatever. Yeah. Now, is it about me? Is it about them? What's going on? Who's at fault? Now shift gears. What's going on in the system of the two of us that this is how it's unfolding right now? It's a really different way to approach a problem in a relationship. And then every piece of information becomes a portal into the system. It's relevant. Yeah? So, you know, if you're consistently late when, you know, getting to a specific obligation, it might be time to ask what meaning is the being late holding? Yeah? It might not be irrelevant. Yeah? That most of what is running systems is unconscious, just like us. Most of what's running us as individuals is our unconscious. Like it's the tip of I love the tip of the iceberg. This is a very useful metaphor for both individuals and for systems. What we can see is just a little bit of what's running things. History, elements, people who are not being acknowledged, all kinds of stuff is influencing what's going on. And then there's the particular family constellations insight for families, which are the orders of love, yeah? Which are our ways of inquiring about belonging, seniority, role, who's transgressed, balance of giving and taking. It's another way to sort of dig down into what's going on in systems, yeah? But everything changes when we look at something from the point of view of systemics rather than personal interpretations of each other. So let me just give you a couple of practical examples. I used, my last job was a volunteer coordinator at Meals on Wheels of San Francisco. I hired an assistant, and out of the gate, holy cow, did we have something. We were in conflict from the first day. It was pretty impressive. And it very much felt like it was about me and her, right? I mean, I could complain about her actions, she could complain about mine. But I knew somewhere from my Constellations training that there was something, and I never did figure it out. Don't get me wrong. It's not always about figuring it out, but that we had stepped into each other's fields, that I was representing something for her and she was representing something for me, right? And we were in a constellation together. And having that point of view did make it more helpful for me. It took off some of the weight, took out some of the blame, made me a bit more creative in the relationship. Practical application for constellations. When you are facilitating and you're getting cranky at a client or a representative, particularly a representative who's not being particularly cooperative, like they're getting too emotional, or they're not giving you the information they want, or they're constantly got their hand up and they need the one with all the attention, or whatever it is, and you're getting cranky, for a moment, instead of just interpreting it as interpersonal dynamics in the room, ask yourselves, what if my crankiness is part of this system I'm looking at? What if this tendency to blame or feel discouraged or at a loss is part of the system I'm exploring? And then you have a few choices. You know, you can give yourself a talking to and try and put that aside, which is fine. It'll go back into the system if that works. You can bring in a representative to represent whatever you're feeling. One of my favorites is just to name to the group, are all of us feeling a little cranky at mom right now? And people will raise their hands and I'll say, that's really interesting. And something about the taking it personally bit will diminish and we'll become more resourceful again. So this is my bonus to all of you. When you point to the possible systemics of something that's going on in a constellation that might be stressing the group, I don't know, an outsider just walked straight through the middle of the group. They had to get to they came in the door and they went through the middle of the group and ignored what was going on and they went to the bathroom on the other side and everyone's like, what did that person do that for? That's outrageous. And then you turn to the group and you go, geez, I wonder what that has to do with the system we're looking at right now. And then everyone can relax about this violation that's just taken place, yeah, and get curious with you. It makes them more tolerant and curious, yeah. So even without knowing what the underlying meaning of the symptom is, just naming it as something that's part of the system. I don't know what it is yet. I don't know what it means, but it's, it's relevant, it's present, relaxes everyone and makes us all creative and not in resistance. Like, oh, the field just manifested that person to run through the middle of the constellation. Okay. So that's my short talk on the thinking systemically and the systemic intelligence and how you can bring it to all parts of your life. I really recommend Constellations facilitating has changed how I look at my personal life and my problems and my relationships so much, and has made me so much more creative, and lowered the tendency to blame, whether myself or someone else, and brought in a lot more space. So at a personal level, as well as, when you're actually facilitating. Any questions or thoughts about that? Yes, Farid.
Just a quick thought, what occurs to me is the analogy with medicine. We think we have hyperacidity in our stomach,
right?
But we always have to look at the whole system and not just deal with acidity in the stomach. So it's imitating the laws of nature, isn't it?
Yeah, and the nice thing about that kind of an analogy, I think it's perfect, is that this is something you can use in helping to explain what we do. If it's ever hard for people to understand, this is one of my little spiels. Imagine you have a pain in your knee and you go to the doctor, and the doctor looks at your knee and says, there's nothing wrong with your knee. And then you go to a cranial sacral therapist and she says, your doctor was quite right. There's nothing wrong with your knee. There's actually something wrong with your neck. She adjusts your neck and the pain in your knee goes away. Well, what if your depression is like this? What if the cause of the depression is not in you and it's somewhere out in the system that you're embedded in? And that's where we need to make the intervention. Yeah. So, any kind of holistic system that you're familiar with, whether it's the body, there are natural versions of this, take out the predators and the lemmings increase. I mean, there's, that you can do stuff from ecology, or buildings. I'm sure you can think of things from buildings, all kinds of wonderful systemic analogies that are out there. Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. That's one I use a lot. Analogies go a long way to helping explain these things to people. Other questions or thoughts about this? Systemic intelligence in daily life. And it is funny how sometimes we still have to go to a Constellations facilitator to get the perspective on our own life, because it's in our own life, and it's very hard to not take it personally. I mean, it's so we're so trained to feel it that way. Sometimes we need the outside person to help us see it. Enough on that topic. Shall we move on to online apps? Okay. Okie dokies. So I'm going to go back to the share screen. Okay. Okay, so as I usually do, I'm going to talk about the strengths and weaknesses of this particular way of doing constellations, why use them. They can be more concrete visually. If you're working with someone at a distance, it might not be more, obviously, there's no point in doing this if you have someone in the room. Let's get on a computer together and do this. It really only applies if you're doing a distance interaction. So in that context, it may be more concrete than working on footprints or having figurines where you're having trouble getting the webcam just right, or being in the mine. And the nice thing about this is that you can both manipulate the objects. That's like a problem with, say, figurines. Only one of you can actually hold them and move them. They're an especially good fit for organizational situations where woo-woo won't work well. It looks a lot like online apps they already use. Yeah. So Jane Peterson has her relationships app. Well, it makes sense that she's the one that developed it because she has a strong organizational subset to her work. She's very big in organizational circles. So in that context, she needed something that worked better for the way those people work and think, so that she could be in rapport with them. Remember rapport, yeah? Some of the downsides. This approach is not very soulful, shall we say. It can lack warmth and feeling. So, you might have to up that in terms of your interaction. I think that the client needs even more coaching about stepping into the roles rather than analyzing from the outside and applying current theories to how things are. Oh, yes, of course, mother and father are near each other because blah, 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 blah. Right? You can feel that they're just thinking about it, right? Therefore, it can be trickier to get to the systemic reframe that a constellation often wants to deliver. Constellations really aren't about just doing another role play. Yeah? It's about sinking into those invisible systemics that I've been talking about. Yeah? So I find that these apps are a little trickier in getting a hold of that. So you need to be intentional about that. So some things to remember. First off, as you can see, I've role modeled this perfectly. You really need to be thorough in making sure that both you and your client are technically ready. Okay? So you saw those extra emails I had to send, and I needed some practice time, and I needed some volunteers. The more technology you have, the more due diligence you need to apply in making sure that everything is in place to make it work. Therefore, you can't just have either of you just show up and get started. Otherwise, you're going to be spending a half hour just getting things set up, if it works at all, right? Amy and I sort of just, I should have asked her to do this earlier rather than 15 minutes before the class started. And then pay attention to the degree of analysis you and the client are doing. So I mentioned the client falling into analyzing it from the outside, but I find that it's also the facilitator has a little bit of a temptation. You want to remember to stay tuned to the field and the systemics, yeah, which means stepping in, feeling, yeah, what's going on. Okay, so those are some things to remember. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a demo. And I'm going to do a demo on Jane Peterson's. I will put this in the chat. Jane Peterson's. It's www.relationships. This is it's not relationships. It's relationships.com. And she's specifically created an app that it's for Constellations specifically. And you're going to see it in a moment. It's really quite elegant. I am on the free 5-day trial. It ends tomorrow. So you can sign up for a free trial to play around with it. Try it with a client if you want. Or if you think this is going to be something for you, particularly those of you who are, I know there's a subset of you guys who are really thinking about organizational contexts. You may end up deciding this app is worth spending. It's only $60 a year. It's not that expensive. Yeah. And some of you may just, like I said, with figurines in the mind, footprints, you may surprise yourself. This may end up being the thing you fall in love with that just works for you. Okay. So at this point, I am going to do share screen. You're not going to be able to participate. Only Amy and I are actually on the app. And Amy raised her hand earlier to be the demo. So Amy, go ahead. Leave Zoom running, but go to the tab for relationships. Relationships. I will share screen. Okay. So can everyone see that? Say no. You should basically just see a big blank screen. Yeah. Okay, Amy, we're going to aim to have this done by about 7:05, 7:10 at the latest. Mm-hmm. Okay. Amy, what's your issue? What's up? Remember, something pretty simple.
Yep. I was thinking about how do I do this in a quick one. So an issue that's been coming up a lot for me lately is I've had to do a lot of just complicated home repairs, things going wrong with air conditioning, etc. And what I have been noticing is that there's a certain state that I get into where it's more than just overwhelm. Overwhelm is like, I have so much to do. This is more like overwhelm and paralysis. Oh my God, I have so much to do. I think I'll just lie back and look at it. I can't deal with it. It's a sense of feeling absolutely frozen, having a difficult time pushing through that frozen feeling and taking effective action.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I just want to say, in these interviews, I often I'm trying to get to something pretty quickly, and I skip a bunch of steps that I wouldn't do with a normal client. Just want to let people know that I'm not always role modeling interviews exactly the way I would like to do them fully. So Amy, when you think about this overwhelm, this paralysis, do mom or dad come to mind quickly?
Oh, first thing I saw was my mother. Yes.
Is it because she did heavy overwhelm, or because you experienced her as overwhelming? Or both?
That's interesting. I would have said the first one, and then when you said the second part, that's actually a part of it. Yeah.
That she did overwhelm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I would like you to set up two things. And you saw the click and drag?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's just start out with your mother and your mother's overwhelm.
Ah, okay. So the click here, I can
So
just
click on one of those colors, literally the colored circle.
the colored part. There you go. Okay, it's not moving for some reason. So I am now clicking on a colored circle and trying to move it, but nothing is moving. Ah,
Okay.
okay. Is there a specific spot in this? Ah, thank you. Maybe that'll do it.
You want to click on the colored part and move it onto the tabletop.
Huh. Odd. Something appeared to be happening, but did not.
Okay, let me bring in two for you.
Yeah.
And then see if you can manipulate them.
All right. No. Weird.
Oh, you're probably looking at my share screen. You need to actually go to the app in your browser.
Oh, whoa, wait. Yeah, maybe that's it. All right. So all I need to do is pull this back up here. Actually, I think I was looking at the app in the browser. Can I go back here? Let me see if I can do that. All right. No.
So minimize all the Zoom stuff. Don't worry about seeing us at all.
Right. I'm trying to get back to that, and all I'm getting is leave meeting, which is not working correctly.
No, just so fortunately I can't see what you're looking at. Sorry guys, here we go. So see find your browser with the tabs.
I see what happened. Yeah. Okay. What I need to do here is get back to that, and for some reason, it's not letting me do that. I may have to leave Zoom for just a second and zoom back in. I have no idea why that's happening, but
It could be.
hold on. I think I've got it. I think I've got it. Never mind. Yeah. All right. Let me go back to. I think I have got my own tab open. So, there we go. Is that right?
Yep, you just moved it.
Oh, thank God. Okay. Thanks. Now I understand. All right. So shall I enter the name here?
Sure.
All right. And the second was overwhelm?
Mother's overwhelm.
Right. Okay.
And then use the little blue, if you run your cursor over it, you'll notice that this little blue turny, there you go. So have them face the way you want them to face.
I actually want to move the whole thing closer to mother.
So let go of that and then click again on the colored part and move it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow, I felt that in my body.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else you want to adjust? Notice that you can also use the green to make things bigger or smaller. So you can make one of them larger than another.
Oh, yeah. That feels right.
Wow. So we will notice that this is in the position of your mother's father.
Mm. When you said that, I got a wave through my stomach.
So for
Yeah.
those of you who aren't aware, usually behind our right shoulder is our father and behind our left shoulder is our mother. So I'm going to invite you to do something. You're already doing it, by the way. In fact, you're probably living in it. But do it on manual. Step into your mom, just with that behind her.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, my whole bodily sensation shifted.
Yeah. Now step out of your mother.
Yeah.
Now here's something I want you to do with a lot of neutrality. Step into your mother's father. Let's see what it's like from his point of view. Does he feel this big?
No.
Yeah. So go ahead and adjust it from his point of view. How does that yellow one feel from his point of view? Oh, wow.
Leslie, are we just straight up assuming that the mother's overwhelm is, her father?
Guy, can you hold on to questions until I'm done facilitating?
Sure.
Thanks. So what I'm going to do is put in father.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to have mother look at her dad. How is that for you to see?
I feel better as me having her look at him directly.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think so.
Ah.
And again, for one moment, just step into your mother, looking at a dad who she can see now feels this small. Even though, of course, she didn't experience it that way. We're not going to disregard her experience.
Right. As her, I feel so much tenderness right now.
So I'm going to bring you in. Why don't you place yourself? Put your name in and place yourself.
Huh. Okay. Right. Hmm. Hmm.
And you can also size yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. Look at your grandfather for a second.
Hmm.
And can you just say, dear grandfather, I'll be like you?
Dear grandfather, I'll be like you.
Now, I want you to just feel this in your body when I do this. Whoops. Not that big.
Oh, something just shifted. Before I felt very sad. Now I feel like, yeah, some sort of stuff just went off of me.
Just hear your mother say, "Dear Father, when I was little, you were too much. But now I thank you for my life. I am small and you are big." Let's give her a little bit more space.
Yeah.
Just call this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Repairs. Things break. And for just a moment, notice your grandfather blessing your stuff. Bit of an issue here with the overlap of these two little toggles. It happens sometimes, unfortunately. You can't turn your mother anymore. Lesson to self, don't make the nose line up with the turning thing. So how does this feel, Amy?
This feels better. It's as if once you had my mother address her father, I could feel the dynamic between the two of them as something that was completing and that I wasn't needed as much in any longer. I just wasn't as much a part of it. And this feels, when you had her father bless my stuff, it actually felt like an elder giving a blessing of life.
Yeah, That's how it was intended. Yeah.
It's just life.
Yeah, yeah. And then just notice Amy kind of going back and forth and noticing that's my grandfather, that's my mother, this is my stuff. There are three different things.
Yes. Ah,
And the only reason why you got stuff to be bothered by it all is because of these two in the life they gave you.
that's right. That's right. Mm. Yes, I was thinking of that when you said, have your mother's father bless your stuff.
Yeah.
Not like this is the stuff of life, and life is a blessing.
Mhm.
And yes, it comes from him and through her.
We'll make you a little bit bigger in the fullness of your adulthood
Yeah.
with your stuff.
I'm glad I'm still bigger than my stuff.
Can you say that out loud? I'm bigger than my stuff.
I'm bigger than my stuff. Yeah.
Even while we recognize that things do come along in life that we're, we are smaller than, right?
Right.
But yeah.
It's just stuff.
Actually, instead of just stuff, can you just look at them and say, dear mother and grandfather, thank you for my life.
Dear mother and grandfather, thank you for my life. Okay, this is weird. As I said that, I actually had the sensation of the stuff standing right by me as a partner.
Go ahead and move that since you had that feeling.
Yeah. Oops. Whoa, no.
Yeah, the sizing thing is got a little bit of a trigger finger. I've noticed that.
It's just a learning curve here. Yeah. So, yeah. It's an ally.
Would you like to turn it so that?
Yeah. Wait a minute. I'm getting that one. Wait a minute. Whoa. Well, I don't know what happened there.
Let's just bring it back.
Oh, okay. Oh, perfect. Okay. Great. Yes, that's more like it. Thank you.
We don't want you bigger than your mom, though.
No. So let's do this. Wait a minute. This is the smaller one? No.
It's the green arrow.
And there we go. All right. Better. I'll be bigger than the stuff, though. Just a little.
Yeah.
There. Now that's
Back. Last move. I would turn your mother if I could, but oh, there it goes.
you can.
Oh, there it goes. Okay.
Mm.
How does that feel?
I feel that support. I feel the stream of life going from that generation and the next generation and through me, and me looking forward, looking ahead. Feels good.
I think we'll leave it here. There's about 100 other things that I'd want to do if we had an hour-long session.
Yeah.
But as a demo, I think we're pretty much complete here.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so I am going to close out relationships because my poor little Mac is just, its fan is going mightily. Okay, so it's got an interesting added piece. I mean, I don't know, some of you may not have this, but you can, in groups, you can have people stand on chairs to indicate bigger. But these chips being able to go bigger and smaller is kind of an interesting thing to be able to add in that we don't usually have, say, with figurines or anything. So any comments or thoughts on this? Observations. You can notice you have to have a willingness to deal with the stuff that arises, right? Yeah, Vered.
To be honest, it feels quite out of my league and so limited. Like, I'm interested to know it exists, and maybe it could be very valuable for the young generation who is so switched on to all of this. But I just feel, for me, very personally, I'd be so concerned about getting the technology right that it would take me out of the field. I wouldn't have the same focus in the field.
Mm-hmm.
But look, it's just new to me, so maybe I'm just reacting with a bit of apprehension that way. But I'm very tactile.
Yeah, yeah. And it is interesting during the course of it, like when she moved the overwhelm nearer her mother, I felt that in my body. Something went, whoa, like that. Does anyone else have that? Just a moment of like, or when the overwhelm went really big, I was like, whoa, something, you know. So there, you know, there is some availability to connecting with this stuff. And not everything is for everybody, and I invite you to try it and see what you can get. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's definitely not going to be for everybody. It's probably not anything I'm going to do with clients, but I wanted to make sure you all had access to this. Yeah, Alyssa.
Do you know any more about how other people are working with it for organizations?
Be more specific in the question. I'm sorry.
I'm just curious how people are using it. How people are using it for organizations. Like if it is better for organizational application, is it just those features that you showed? Are there any other things about it? I mean, I can understand why organizational clients might like it, but are there any other features there that make it good for organizations?
I did not notice any other features.
Okay.
There's the chips, the sizing, the turning, and I think generally speaking, what's going on is a Constellation facilitator, coach, consultant is having a consultation with an individual, you know, someone who leads a team, a CEO,
Okay.
someone like that. And then they would be, you know, manipulating HR and the personnel department, and the clients is another representation. You know, there's a whole sort of best practices that tend to be part of organizational constellations that we've not gone into here. But they do the exact same thing that we just saw with Amy, but looking at the elements of the organization with another person. Now, you could have a team sitting around looking at it as well.
Yeah, right.
And there are apps that you can record these. And so they could use it for that as well. But there's no other
Okay, so it's still one-on-one work. It's not like a bunch of people are going to be. I mean, I guess in theory you could have like three or four clients in the organization watching. I guess I'm envisioning some I'm envisioning like a multiplayer game or something, but it's not that. It's like still one-on-one work.
Yeah, it's not clear to me if you can invite more than one guest at a time. I don't see why not, but it only says invite a guest. So I can do some research on that.
Yeah, I wonder if you could have it be like a multi with several representatives, each controlling their piece on the chess.
Right.
I don't know.
Exactly.
Can I jump in? I was going to type it, but my typing's so slow. It's Catherine.
Gotcha, Catherine.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So I was doing this other online constellation class, and she had this great platform, which was like what Alyssa was saying, was like everyone could have their own piece, and you could make them, and they were sort of like kind of like images, like you could have a man or a woman or a dog or a child, and it was really good. I mean, I'd never used it, and then like after 2 weeks of it, she'd used it for a couple of years. It wasn't secure, and then it was shut down. And she was trying to get something going again. But it was like what Alyssa was saying. Everyone, you just chose a figure and you pulled it out, and you could move it around like you were all kind of sitting around a table and just manipulating it. It was really good, but something happened anyway.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to introduce you to just a common whiteboard app. This is this Twiddler. It's not designed for constellation work, but it's the kind of thing that like up to 10 people can sign into and all manipulate stuff, and I'll demo that in a minute. So you can adapt tools that already exist out there I've heard some people using Second Life for constellations, which I haven't looked at in like 10 years. So there are things out there you can use, but Jane has designed this one platform that's fairly elegant and easy.
Cool.
Guy, you had a question about the overwhelm being Amy's dad. Do you still have that question? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I guess, I get how you were saying, well, because of where the chip was positioned, that it was in the position of her father. But then it seemed like rather than say, before you brought in a separate representative for the father, or before you renamed it, you just kind of assumed that it was father. And I was like, anyway, I was just kind of like, was there something that led you to make that assumption or determination, or
right?
Like,
it was not an assumption. Did you notice what happened after I said, that's interesting, the overwhelm is in mother's father's position? What happened next?
Well, I was a little distracted because I was driving, but I think I probably recall Amy probably giving an exhale or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So I was checking and testing.
Okay.
Yeah. And Amy gave me a big yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If it had been off, she would have gone, oh, no, maybe. Well, she would have done one of those.
Right. Okay.
But something really shifted for her when I said that. So I went, oh, this is worth going with. And if it had, in some level had been wrong, eventually the constellation would have made that clear as well. But it felt like a useful enough theory to go with, given that how useful it was for Amy.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
Yep. Yeah, you always want to, if you don't know something but you have a guess about something, like someone's pointing to the ground and you don't know what it is, but you've heard a story of a dead baby or something, you could say, I wonder if it's the dead baby, and people will go, oh God, that's what it is, and or they won't. They'll go, I don't know, maybe. Hillary.
Oh, how many chips are there? Because I couldn't tell.
Well, there are 5 colors, but you can put as many as you want in. So you can have, more that are blue, more that are green. So you can keep pulling them in. I did one with somebody last week, and then we ended up with 7. I would think that something like this, as with all one-on-one constellations, you don't want to have them as populated as you might have group constellations. But you can keep pulling them in. I have not noticed that there is a limit to the number of chips yet. Other questions or comments? How you doing over there, Amy? Oh, I'm sorry. Did someone? Kate, go ahead.
Okay, I have just a thing that I noticed, like, so when Amy was talking about her overwhelm, and then what you did kind of just, what you did reminded me of EMDR, when you just kind of do a float back, like someone comes with a feeling, and then you say, like, because how you tied it to her parents, I just kind of wanted to inquire into that. Like, do you automatically do that when someone comes to you?
So I'm sorry, you cut out a little bit, and there's the dog in the background, and I didn't completely understand the question.
So I guess I'll be simple. How did you relate it back to her parents? Like, how did you, when she came to you about overwhelm and stuff?
Okay, got it. Okay.
Is it just the lens of doing a family?
Yes. So at that moment, I turned to all of you and I said, if I was doing a regular client interview, I wouldn't be doing this fast. I'd want to know a lot more about the experience of overwhelm. That would be the first thing. I'd want to know a lot more particularities about how she experiences the overwhelm. But I'm in a group and I'm trying to move things along. And my apologies, but 90% of what you're going to work with clients are likely to have some connection to a parent. It's just, as one of my teachers said, if we were raised by wolves, we would be talking about wolves. Instead, we're talking about parents because that's who we were raised by. And yeah, I mean, if someone's having intense reactions that are kind of patterned, I'm first going to be curious about whether mom or dad were overwhelming and or overwhelmed. And I could have gotten a no. She could have said, you know what, I don't relate that to my parents at all. That did seem likely, that there'd be at least something. Or she could have said, no, but my mother's mother, she could have said something like that. Or no, but my older brother, so yeah, it was a little bit of shortcutting based on a lot of experience, and not the way I would do it with a new client. I'd really, really want to feel for the overwhelm first. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Other questions? Okay, let's take a break. Oh, Amy, yeah, unmute you. You're muted. Amy, you're muted. There you go.
Better. So first of all, I have to say that was unexpectedly for me. I had expected not to feel as much as I did. It was surprisingly powerful. I got it very fast. I felt everything in my body, even more so than with certain other methods, which may have been the subject. I don't know. I'd also like to point out that, yeah, it may be true that perhaps in some sense that was not complete, because I think in my history, my family, there are other areas that overwhelm would come in for parents and grandparents, and I'm sure that has a part of it. But there is something really complete about doing this brief piece, which focused on one very specific aspect rather than bring in, even if we had an hour, we could have brought in, I don't know, 5 or 6 other people, and it might have been left unfinished at the end. So I'm not sure that it would have been any more complete.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I keep on being reminded the power of short forms. A 10-minute constellation. I find that 10-minute constellations serve up resolutions far more reliably than hour-and-a-half ones, because hour-and-a-half ones tend to have unpacked so much that it's almost like we've done Pandora's box. We can't stuff it back in. And then there's like, oh, but mom isn't quite right, and the brother isn't quite settled, and Poland is still a little unhappy, and and you can feel all the jagged edges, and there's something about a really neat, clean 10-minute piece that can often just rock our worlds. I'm getting more and more skeptical of long-form constellation work, which is bad because that's my bread and butter. But and when it works, obviously. So I want to take a break now. 7:16. 7:21, whatever time you're at, 21 after the hour. Come on back. And Guy, I hope you have access to video when we come back.
Yeah, I'm getting my computer up.
Great. Smooshy bear. Little boy of kittiness. Hey, Smooshy. What are you doing? What you doing, Smooshy? Little boy. Okay, if you're in the sound of my voice, it's 5 minutes. Please come on back. Come on back, everybody. Come on back, my friends. Come on, come on, come on. Hello. Need everybody back because I'm going to show you how to use Twiddler now. And I can't send you into groups until I show you how to do that. See Alyssa saying she's going to have to go. Unmute you, Alyssa. My unmute isn't working. You're going to have to unmute yourself.
Just thanks to everyone, and look forward to seeing you next time.
Yeah, and I'll be sending the follow-up. I'll be sending a follow-up email. So say goodbye to folks there as well.
Okay, great.
So everyone say
demo though, but bye.
Alyssa. Thanks, Alyssa, for being part of the class.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, I'm going to grab the screen. So this is twiddler.com. And do not go on Twiddler yet. And but I wanted to show you how it worked briefly. So what I did was I wanted to share an app that is designed for constellations. That's relationships.com. And then I wanted to share with you something that you might adapt. And so I went online and I just Googled online whiteboard apps. And to my surprise, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of free whiteboard apps, basically a place where you can scribble with someone else or a bunch of people or a team that are free. They're awesome. There are a lot of them. And I tested a bunch of them, and this was my favorite for the purposes of this work, okay? So when you're ready, not yet. I mean, you can put in twiddler.com, but I don't want you to hit go yet. The reason is that the free one limits 10 people in 20 minutes. So if you start your board now, it's going to run out of time. You can go to twiddler.com, but don't start the board. So when it is your turn, when you get into pairs, and I will take you through that, you're going to hit this go, and you'll just start a new whiteboard. And up will come twiddling, twiddling. It says it's twiddling. Hello, Twiddler. There are really only a couple of tools you're going to need. You're going to need the shapes tool with the circle. If you're watching my cursor, I went on the shapes tool with the cursor and I hit the ovals. So I imagine today doing a constellation for myself on this event I had to cancel due to the fires here in Northern California. And do I reschedule this fall or next spring? So I put in one for me. And then what I do is I put a little nose in, a second circle for the nose. And the direction is going in. So it's two objects. And then I change the color over here. And the event, which for some reason I seem to be looking right at, but it's not looking at me. Okay. And then I want to bring in a different one for the participants. And they're over here looking at the event. Okay. And now if I want to start moving things, there's one other tool you need, which is the select tool. Okay, this arrow up on the top. And then I can move myself. So I actually kind of want to move myself over here, and I have to move two things to look at them both. Yeah? And as soon as I do that, I feel like the event wants to move away. And that makes me feel sad and confused. Okay, so a constellation is undergoing. Both of you can move things, just like you saw in relationships. You cannot label them as in relationships, so you're just gonna have to keep track, okay? So this is the event, this is me, these are the participants, but it's easy to have direction and to move things around, okay? What's gonna happen is that when you open, I'm gonna put you into pairs, and one of you is going to, as usual, decide to facilitate first. And I'm gonna ask you, I see the chat question, I will get to that in 1 second. The person who's gonna facilitate first, do the interview first. Don't worry about Twidla until you interview, because you want the 20 minutes to do the constellation. So do your interview, and then when you're ready, I'm going to go back to here. Now I just want to say, if you make a mistake and you go back here in the middle of the event, look, click here to rejoin your meeting. This is something that's possible to do. And there's the meeting, okay, that I left, okay? But if instead you're starting from scratch, so you've done the interview, then click on this. A new screen will show up. Twiddling. And then you'll see here on the right, give out this link to invite people to this meeting. Okay? So you'll need to share this with the other person. And notice it's twiddla.com/ and then 6 lowercase things. So that's the link you need to share with someone. Somehow or another. I would just read it. If it was Nancy, I would say, Nancy, go to twiddla.com/ and write this down. Lowercase h50EYT. And she'll put that in, and then in a moment she'll join me, and then we'll have a place to do it together. Okay? So I'm noticing there's some chat questions. Bye, Alyssa. Pleasure. So you were able to do this on yourself, Leslie? Yeah, I did a little I mean, I would never do this for myself. I would just do cards on the floor for myself. It's way simpler, but yeah, I can do it on myself. How do you get the other person to do it? Do you invite them? Hopefully, Catherine, you got that question answered. So I'm going to stop share and see if there are any questions. And hopefully you guys all had a chance to play with this. I sent several emails encouraging you to check out Twidla. Can you raise your hand if you did not? Just so that I can put the groups with, people who have looked at it with people who haven't, rather than 2 new people. So you all had a chance to look at it? Okay, great. Any questions or anything? Catherine, did you get your question answered? Excellent. Any other questions? So otherwise, it's going to be the same old, same old. Yeah, and I'm going to, it's not a share screen thing. You've got to go, you're going to keep Zoom on in the corner, and you're going to be looking at the Twidla screen together in your browser, okay? And then every once in a while, I may come in and you'll just hear my voice saying, 5 minutes to go, because you won't be looking at your thing once you're in the constellation. Yeah, Farid?
So I'm using Zoom on my iPad, and I've got my Mac next to me. So does that mean I shouldn't be doing the Twiddler on my, I was going to just separate it and do it on my computer.
That's fine. You can do it that way if you want to. For most people, they have one device and they're just looking at, Zoom is on one browser tab and Twiddler is on another browser tab.
Okay, thanks.
Cross your fingers. I believe this is compatible. This may be a complete disaster. And I'll be checking in and seeing how you're doing, but I'm not going to be able to see your Twiddlers. Right? Okay. So, and Alyssa, you're leaving, yes?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
can I invite you to say goodbye to everybody now so that when I divide you up, you don't get put in a group.
Okay, good. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, I'm sending you into breakout rooms. Breathe. Be patient with each other. Okay. Remember, you're doing your interviews before you go into your Twiddler rooms.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very cold today. It's
Hi, Leslie. We're still chatting, Leslie. We have to go to our Twiddler board.
Start your interview and then go to Twiddler. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Because you don't have much time. You know, the normal sort of 20 minutes plus.
I know. Okay. Okay.
So,
We're busted. So
Do you want to do yours first then? I'll do the intake on you.
I'm doing, is this correct? Are we on the right Twiddler page?
So don't worry about Twiddler until you do the interview.
Right.
Okay? So do the interview first, and then whoever's facilitating, give the link to the other person. Because you only get 20 minutes in the Twiddler room.
All right. Then we won't worry about it. Okay. Thanks.
Okay, Amy, you just had your demo, but do you want to go first, or do you want to wait, or how do you feel?
That's a good question. Yeah, for some reason that feels like.
I have a feeling it is connected to my dad.
Okay. Dad connection. And so, did you have a strong relationship with him?
Yeah, I do. I have a
You
pretty
do have.
strong relationship with him, yeah.
Okay.
But
And
it's
go ahead.
a dynamic that
but it seems like in their relationship, they're all, it just seems like they're
Is that same pair? You bought each time the same one?
I bought the same model. Yeah.
Same model. Okay.
Yeah. We're working on something very, very important, Leslie. My propensity to lose sunglasses this year.
an hour to
Right.
just take my half an
Yeah.
hour then,
Right.
like my yeah, the half an hour in between, or a session that is, you know, in the right time. I guess, yeah, perhaps a session that is in the right time. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So if you do a circle for the, yeah, like a completed session, like a right time completed session.
Yeah. So that's somewhere here, very far
Yep.
away from me.
Okay. Okay. All right. So that's good. So now and does that seem like the right size? Like the same size? It's a little bit bigger than you, but roughly.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
And thank you for reminding me that it's not a drag thing. You just do the whatever. Okay, so, you know, this is weird. I am not getting this correctly. All right, let's try
I'm gonna
that.
put a nose on you. There you go. That's you.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, you did get it.
Yeah. And here's the funny thing. I would put, like the way you originally had it, that's actually what I would do with the criticism. I would put it like here. I don't know if this is showing, but the
That can be erased.
You have to move both things, I guess. Yeah. There
Yep.
you go. The nose and the face. Okay, there it is. Okay. All right. It's a Does that feel about right, having that distance from the money?
Something's not right, but I can't figure out what would
what's getting in the way of her receiving that love and life support from her own mother? Like, how would it feel to, or
Okay. And dot what?
No, that's it.
That's it?
So it's, yeah, you've got it.
All right.
So it's
I'm opening it up.
Yeah. I think
And
you're in.
I'm there.
I think you're there. You are guest number 4283.
Yep.
Okie dokie. So let's look at
of, intimidated by me. I like to
Right.
look at things in the face. So
Right.
in Australia we say I'm scared shitless, but I'm,
Mhm.
I'm still doing
Right.
it.
Right.
You got 5 minutes, guys.
Okay, thank you.
To it.
Yeah.
In a funny kind of way. So let me go back to draw, and then I'm going to take this and go like that. And
You have
now,
5 minutes, guys.
Okay.
okay.
So,
So now I'm facing toward my mother. Yes.
and you can just say,
I almost feel like I don't want it to be like an object. I want it to be like a constant entity, constant, consistent entity in my life.
You guys have 5 minutes left, okay?
okay.
Thanks, Leslie.
You want it to be a constant entity in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is there a way to make how it would feel to make her bigger? Just do it.
Let's see.
You guys have 5 minutes left.
It moves.
I'm not sure you can make them bigger or smaller.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But I can I can
So-
draw this one. I can, erase my existence.
And what I'm actually drawing is like a beautiful, big, bright, shining sun.
Okay.
Okay.
You guys have 5 minutes left, okay?
Okay. So what do you see is happening there? It's gone right over. The knot is a. Yeah, Shmoo. Good little Shmoo. You're a sweet Shmoo. Schmoopy. You're a good boy. Schmoopy. Just a few more minutes. We're almost done. Yeah.
me and my client.
And
Something like that.
is perfect for me and my client. Yes.
Yes. And that, and the other thing I just thought of, I mean, I keep thinking of all these, you know, practical things which aren't what we're doing, but it's like maybe what's in the system with these clients is that they are not good at setting boundaries either. And by you modeling the boundary setting of the time and looking after yourself, you're sort of setting up the system for them as well to be able to do that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
you're
I just want to say it's about time to change.
I know, yeah, we will.
And you got to close out of the whiteboard you're in and start a new one.
Okay. We can't just erase everything and start over?
It's
No, we
going to
have
close in
only
a minute or two.
Oh, I see. Okay, good idea. Yeah, all right. All right.
Do your interview.
Yeah. Okay.
I love
Okay,
it.
you guys are turning around.
We're turning around because we hit a blank. It said we've reached the limit.
You've
We
used
timed
it
out
for
of
20
it.
minutes. Okay.
That's
Yeah.
okay. We're
But
done
we
anyway.
finished, so it's perfect. We ended up in a great place, and it all worked.
Great.
It was good.
Carry on.
Thank you. Okay, so
Other spouses want to come. And I said, I want to come this year. I want to be there because you don't have any other opportunities anymore for me to be with the whole family.
So if you guys
So-
done the turnaround,
We
Yep.
just started.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Yep.
Thanks, Leslie.
So, yeah, I'm nervous because they've never included.
Changing. Yeah.
you guys done the turnaround yet?
We are going to now.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
You do need to leave that whiteboard and start a new one.
Okay. Good. All right. Okay. Catherine.
I had hoped, because of the limitations of format, is not so much to make you bigger than your parents, but to illuminate that part of you, which is existence, what you chose to represent existence, to just illuminate it. So maybe I should have colored it in, you know.
Yeah,
And
I
So
I
just
wanted
to
to
let you
see
guys
how
know
you
it's about time to turn over, okay?
yeah, got it.
And
know what
you guys will need to start a new whiteboard.
Yeah,
Just to let you know.
So I'm really, I did not have, this was really not a very fun format. It was problematic and challenging to work with. So I don't
Yes,
want to use it for mine. I'm going to just go to relationships and try that because it was painful to try to make it work.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I don't even want to do it next time. So anyway, okay. So all right, let's just do. So thank you, Vered, and let's sort of pivot, and I'll start an interview with you, and
Okay.
then we'll
And I don't know.
So the representative that I would really put here is your lawyer, the part of you that is a lawyer.
Right.
5 minutes left, guys.
Okay.
What is it?
She said 5 minutes left.
5 minutes. I would put the part of you that is a lawyer.
Like any, I feel like that's what this is.
5
It's a
minutes left, guys.
One?
5
Oh.
minutes left.
5 minutes. Okay.
It's like his construct that he brought in.
Me, I really appreciate you. And Nancy, Thank you for including me. I appreciate you too. And I hope you get well.
Did we miss
Barbara?
one? Okay.
Yeah, we
Yep.
missed Barbara. Barbara, thanks for including me. I appreciate you. Thank you for including me.
5 minutes left.
Thank you.
All right. Okay.
How does that feel, Janvi?
Good. I like that part.
Yeah, your voice changed.
Yeah.
Your energy got
Yeah.
mellower. You were a little anxious.
Yeah. Yeah, the other part about asking for forgiveness was like, no.
I was the one standing behind him because he couldn't face it. I was the one going through all the letters, looking over all the documents, helping him to strategize, you know, living in this house. Yeah, so I was left with her. I came into this house and she was here.
5 minutes left, guys.
And he,
So you mean your husband and her lived?
5
Yeah,
minutes
that's
left,
okay.
guys.
Okay. If you could, Vered, please bring in a representative for your mom. She's a triangle?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, that was interesting. Wow.
I know that I am doing the right things.
So,
Okay, guys, I'm going to have to ask you in a minute, you know, to finish up and leave your Twiddler room because I can't
Okay.
force you from Twiddler.
Okay.
So come on back to Zoom in a minute.
Okay.
okay.
I'm
Did,
just
did
gonna-
It's not just the land of ridicule and hard words.
Okay, guys, I'm going to have to ask you to wrap this up in a minute and come back to Zoom. You're going to have to do that on your own because I can't force you from your Twiddler rooms. So
1 minute.
Yep. So you're going to have to do that on your own.
Okay.
Great. Thanks.
We're all done.
Great. Excellent. I'll be forcing everybody. So are you guys back in Zoom?
Yeah, we're in Zoom.
Okay. Thank you. I will bring you all back in 1 second.
Okay.
Ever kind of agree with you on that, but you can say the fact that you've been married to each other for 26 years, and that's a lot to leave behind.
So I'm just going to ask you guys to wrap this up in a minute and leave your twiddler room
Okay.
and come on back. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you guys to, in a minute, leave whatever app you're in and come back to Zoom, okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
Am I the only one here?
Yeah, she apparently already left. I'm going to be bringing everybody back. And you're in the main room. Yeah, you came back.
I
So
thought Yael did too. Oh, well.
everyone will be coming back in a minute.
Okay. We were the first back, Yael.
Obedient as always.
See, that's a good sign. We finished on time. We stuck to the limits, which is
Hey!
exactly what your issue was.
Well done. Well
So there
done.
we
Thank
go.
you. I didn't even notice. Well
See?
done.
A miracle
I have to
cure.
What?
Yeah.
A miracle,
Miracle cure, miracle cure.
Yeah. I have to say, Leslie, I don't like this technology stuff. It wastes a lot of time.
Yeah, I don't think many people liked it very much, but
it's good to use.
we're in school together, so we had an experience of trying some things that were new.
Yeah, no, but we did have a good experience.
Yeah, we did.
Working together. Yes.
And it's amazing how even with basic things like a whiteboard with not very good circles, you can still do stuff, which I think is good to see that, you don't need a whole group of people. I mean, that's great. I love that. But you don't, you can have these simple things.
Yeah.
Definitely, yes.
Well, and for folks that may be committed to doing one-on-one constellations, you might have been tempted to try these apps out. And now you know. Now you've had the experience, the strengths and weaknesses thereof. So I'm going to mute everybody. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. So questions, shares, miracle cures. I also, I'm a fine calibrator of emotion. I noticed a lot of you didn't like this. Yay, thumbs up. I'm glad you all had the experience. We're in school to experience these different approaches. But any comments or shares about that? So Farad, you had your hand up. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little bit warmer to it now. When I was facilitating for Guy, I think we both found it very frustrating to jump from the interview to getting it happening. And anyway, we used shapes. So when it was my turn and we reversed, I didn't want to use shapes. I wanted to use draw.
Okay.
And I found that the draw was really interesting because there was so much revealed by how it's quite difficult to use, how immature. And it was
Yeah. It's a funny scribble, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like an 8-year-old. But I like that because it seemed to come from inner child. I'm not sure how Guy feels about that, but I felt that drawing was much more powerful for me than being restricted by those shapes.
Okay.
And I ended up representing my mother as a triangle. And of course, it's completely subconscious, and that has meaning for me. So I'm just wondering, with the limitation of Twiddler, it had more application when I used draw as opposed to shape.
Yeah, and Twiddler, there's nothing important about Twiddler. There's probably 100 other free whiteboard apps out there. It was the only one I found where you could move the shapes independently of each other, which seemed important. And I wanted to just share something free, and I couldn't quite figure out how to get you all on relationships in order to do that together. So this is what we ended up with. Thank you.
And can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
I made a mistake because with Guy's one, I wanted to enlarge one of them.
Which they did do, yeah.
I didn't know how to do it. So I actually put draw and I made it bigger. Anyway, so Guy brought up a premise in Constellations that the child must never be bigger than the parent in the representation. Is that right? Is that
The end goal is for us to recover our smallness with respect to our parents, but as an intermediary step, sometimes the child will be up on a chair and the parent will be down on the floor, and it reveals the current state of the child, trying to take care of the parent, or the child, feeling superior to the parent. So it can show up as part of the process, but it's not the end game.
Got it. Thank you. Thanks, Leslie.
Yeah. Nancy, please. You're going to have to unmute yourself, Nancy. I'm sorry. I don't seem to be able to unmute people tonight.
Okay. We have 11 participants. So how did you pair people? Did you work with one of?
Oh, we actually have 10 now. Alyssa left before we started.
Oh, okay. So 11 is including you?
Yeah.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thanks. How would you do it if there were 11 of us? How would you?
I would see if Amy wanted to just watch, given that she just had a demo. Does anyone want to stand out? Does one group want to move faster and do 3 rounds? We'd find something. Or I might pair off with somebody.
Yeah. Sounds good.
I've done that before.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah, Nancy's thinking about her own teaching, right? Right. Other thoughts about this? I mean, even if it was very, very, very unsophisticated and clunky, hopefully you at least got a taste of, oh my God, the field, it just keeps working. The damn field just keeps working. Yeah, Hillary, go ahead.
I actually was like, all this is just a tiny bit annoying, but by the time my session was done, I really fell in love with my picture, and it was very meaningful, and I wanted to print it out and keep it, and so it was like, it was very powerful. I just wasn't expecting that.
Awesome. I'm wondering if sometimes the field works through our resistance and crankiness, and does a certain amount of surprise thing on us.
Calling me cranky now?
Yeah. Okay, well, my friends, we're wrapping it up here. Yeah. And so I want to share just a little bit of information for you going forward, and then I want to hear your class takeaways. So while I'm talking, think about the last 4 weeks, 5 sessions. So, we did footprint work, we did figurine work, we did systemic coaching, we did constellations in the mind and constellation meditations, and now online apps, okay? And you've heard a lot of basic principles, primary and secondary emotions, the orders of love, systemic thinking, what facilitators are looking for. You've heard me just answer a lot of questions. So think about that, because I want you to share a little bit about what your takeaway is. And I'm going to grab the screen one more time here and just share a little bit of information for you. Not Facebook. Which is, first off, just a reminder, my 6-month training is starting in September. Some of you who may have entered this course without a training under your belt may be going, oh my gosh, I'm missing some foundational pieces. This would be the class to join if you're thinking about needing that. Some of you who had a training may think I'm missing some foundational pieces. And so you may be considering this. I do have people who are taking this who have taken other trainings because they feel like there was some piece they missed, particularly the practice piece, which you can see the way I've demoed it here, it would just be more spacious because there's more time, there's whole weekends, that sort of thing. And so I invite you to consider this, but also perhaps for those of you for whom it is not a correct fit, can you think of someone who would want to know about this? I'd be very, very grateful if you shared it with them. People who are beginning to become constellation nerds, and it might be a good fit. Send them my way. This is actually incorrect. I think it's August 27th. You save $500 on the final cost. Okay. So there's the link. You can also just find it on my website. And then the other thing that does seem to be in line with what some of you are looking for is I do a lot of business coaching and healing for people who are building their practices. I really understand what it takes to build a constellation practice. And I really understand some of the ways in which heart-centered people get themselves in trouble when they're trying to grow businesses. And so it's a one-on-one program. It has sessions, 1-hour coaching sessions, and unlimited email coaching. And it focuses on nuts and bolts, discernment, and healing. And this is the link for that. And again, if this is not the fit for you, can you think of someone who's been hitting their head against the wall building their practice and might need this heart-centered, really collegial kind of support? So I invite you to consider that. I noticed that there's a couple of chat questions. Catherine says, I can't believe it, it's all over. And Catherine emailed me privately. I emailed her, could I do the online part alone if I can't do the weekend? Probably not. Ooh, we just lost somebody. Oh, who did we just lose? Does anyone know? I lose track of everybody. Oh, well, we just lost someone. Maybe they'll come back. So I wanted you to consider these things. Catherine, probably not, but email me again, okay? Kate's back. It was Kate. So some takeaways before we go. Take a moment with your heart and this commitment you've made. You've all joined in so beautifully. We're missing Ingrid and Kristen and Alyssa right now, so hold them in your heart. What's something you're taking away that you didn't have 4 weeks ago, or an appreciation you'd like to offer to the group? Just raise your hand or unmute yourself. Just share. Hillary, go ahead, and then John V, and then Nancy.
I think you just said it, which is like, holy whatever, the field is working everywhere in all these modalities, and it's just amazing. It's very elastic.
Yes. Francesca Mason-Boring says the field is efficient. And by that she means it uses everything. So yeah, it's nice to have that thought. Thank you. Jean V. You're gonna have to unmute yourself.
Here we go. Yeah, the first big thing was to get like unstuck from the thought, from one major misconception I had about that. If I was doing footprint work with people, it was always about them standing in place, and for me to go, well, it's a big option change here. I can be the person standing in all those footprints for them. I'd never pictured it that way. It's like, that was just a huge help right out of the gate. But overall, having all these different views of ways to do the one-on-one, it just makes me feel elastic. Maybe the field is more elastic too, but I feel more elastic. Wow. So that's great. And confidence is better. Definitely better. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
That's all I want for you guys, is to feel like you can go off and do it.
Yeah.
Nancy, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just really like how you organize your material and the format itself. To have a bit of a lecture first, to get the theory and the background information, and then see how you handle like a demo, not knowing the background, and right away kind of pick up some systemic issues to work on. So that was really helpful. And also the exchange practicum was very helpful too. So I just like the flow of it, and how we get to work with different people, because different people comes with different issues. So it's a very rich experience for me. I really enjoyed it. I have to second Catherine that. Is it over already?
Yeah. Thank you, Nancy. And Hillary is saying, can we all continue to work together? I'd love that. The answer, of course, to that is yes. And I'm going to include those links and some of what Nancy just said, as well as an invitation. You have 12 new colleagues here. And if there's someone that you connected with, run with it. Connect with them and continue peer relationship and support. If you want small groups and do practice together, really, it's in your hands. Go for it. Colleagues are a precious thing. Yeah. Other.
Can I just say I was really sad to hear that your Shasta workshop had to be canceled.
Yeah.
Because I know how amazing that would have been. I'm so sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
The fires
Yeah.
overcome us.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just gotten too wacky in Northern California right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other takeaways, other appreciation. Yeah, Vered. I gotta unmute you. There you go.
Can you do it? Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? Look, I have a million takeaways, some of which I'm not even actually conscious of, so I couldn't begin to articulate. But one thing that I'm left with too is how every facilitator practitioner has their particular brand and their particular take, and I really love yours because it's so light, even though obviously the content's extremely heavy, but you make it light and you make it okay for the messiness. And so I do like the Leslie Lipp School of Constellations. So thank you for that, Leslie. And also everyone in the group, it's always perfect, isn't it? It's always the right group. So thank you, everyone. I wish you all well. That's it.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, it's been a lovely group.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Other takeaways. Yeah, Catherine, you're unmuted.
Oh, I'm unmuted. Yes. I just wanted to say thank you so much, Leslie. I really enjoyed it. I think you're hysterically funny sometimes, which I really love because, as someone else mentioned, it's not always, it can be so serious and levity is really helpful. And I loved meeting everyone. And I just found it so amazing that in all of these different modalities, especially the constellations of the mind, it was so powerful, even though it was, you weren't using anything physical. And I just, it really came through in this course how powerful it is, even without all the kind of having the group and the props and everything. And so I just wanted to say thank you, and I'm really sorry about all the bushfires. It must be really hard.
Yeah. Thank you. Other folks, other shares. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, Elle. You're unmuted. It works for some people and not for others. I don't know why.
Thank you very much, Leslie. It was very well constructed, and also thank you for all the participants, especially the ones that I was practicing with, because I think that everything was very useful, but definitely the fact that you can be messy with someone was very, very helpful. And I think the thing that I love the most is the figurines that I didn't really think that I'm going to connect with, and I was very apprehensive about online, so I was kind of pushing myself to take this course, to just give it a go. So you can see that it's not my favorite modality to work online, but how effective it can be, it's really, for me, a big eye-opener. And I also love the guided meditation, because I am probably going to do groups. So even with the group that we do a family constellation workshop, it gave me a lot of insight into how to do these meditations. So these are just a few things that pop into my mind, but yeah, it was very helpful. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you, everybody. And I see we have an added participant with Hillary. Hello. Anybody else? We've gone a couple minutes over, but I want to give everybody just a chance if there's something you want to share.
Yes, I would like to thank everyone. It has been so enormously beneficial to me. Leslie, your teaching has been amazing. Everybody I've worked with, both as a subject and as a practitioner, has been terrific. And I think most importantly, I really began to understand that as long as I have some basic understanding of some of the principles and a willingness to be in the field and to experiment a little, I'm okay. That's enough confidence that I need. I don't have to, as you said, be always comparing myself to, oh, I could never do this. I can do what I can do.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's plenty, and that's enough for now. So it's changed my view of what I can do in constellation work dramatically, and that's a huge thing. So I thank you for that.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, we all got to start somewhere.
Right.
Yeah. Jessica or Kate, I think, or Guy. Yeah, Jessica, go ahead. Whoops, we both hit it at the same time.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jessica.
Hi. Hi. It's really been a pleasure. Leslie, you created a great environment. Definitely appreciate your sense of humor and the opportunity to succeed or mess up, and neither one is seen with any judgment. I worked with some amazing partners, got some really good insights, and really enjoyed it. Really feel like I'm walking away with a lot more confidence with, let me see what the client is coming up with and which is the best methodology to match the client versus I really like X and I'm going to try to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you.
Great. Thank you. Kate or Guy? You're not required, but if you have something you want to share. Yeah, Kate.
Okay. Just thank you, everyone, and thank you, Leslie.
Yeah.
That's it.
This is Guy's second time at this rodeo, by the way. He liked it enough that he signed up for a second round of it.
Good this time, too.
Great. And Kate, go ahead.
I just want to say how much I've appreciated this. I took a really long, intensive workshop that left me filled up, and you've really helped me just kind of revisit some of these things in small, digestible pieces and ways to work, And I really appreciate not just your sense of humor, your authenticity. It made me feel really comfortable. And I love the way how you kept saying messy and inelegant. It really gives me permission to be totally messy and totally inelegant. And I also appreciate the group, just the compassion and the real holding of the group for each other. So I hope we don't lose touch entirely. And I just thank you to everyone. Yeah.
Oh, well, and my final words to you all is to continue to allow yourselves to practice and be messy and inelegant. And I don't want to just leave it there, to seek mastery, to learn from more teachers, learn from each other, learn from your own practice, from your mistakes, and say, how might I do it differently next time? And to seek, there's something lovely in the martial arts about reaching for that black belt thing. And, in martial arts, there's no end to the black belts. Then there's second degree and third degree and fourth degree. So it doesn't end, but some desire to be truly masterful at this, and to keep reaching for that. And the only way we can do that is by letting ourselves be messy along the way. It's a funny little paradox. The messier we let ourselves get, the better we get. Not the more perfect we get, but the more elegant we get in our work. So I invite you to reach for that and to enjoy that process. Except for the times when you weep, you go, oh, I did a terrible job, and then you come back and try again. So I invite you into that with me, and be my colleague in seeking that with me. And learn from lots of different wonderful people. And I'm going to send a follow-up email with some opportunities to continue to learn with me. And until then, have a wonderful night. Thanks for sticking around a few extra minutes just to be able to say goodbye to each other. And I am, where's the manage participants, and unmute all so that you can all say goodbye to each other.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you, everybody.
All of you.
Yeah,
Amazing
thank you.
people.
Bye-bye.
All of you.
Bye.
Amazing people.
Bye.
Huh.